Is this seat taken? The voice startled Daniel Hayes so much that he nearly knocked over his water glass. He looked up and froze. Standing before him was Claire Whitmore, the CEO of Whitmore Dynamics, the very company where Daniel worked nights, pushing a mop across the endless marble floors. She carried herself with the ease of someone used to commanding boardrooms, yet there was a softness in her eyes that disarmed him. Daniel blinked, confused. This couldn't be right. He wasn't supposed to be sitting across from anyone like her. He had come here because he believed someone wanted to meet him for a date, someone who admired him from afar. That fragile hope had been enough to pull him out of his routine, enough to make him wear the one good shirt he owned and polish his late father's old watch until it caught the light. But he had no idea the whole thing was a setup, a cruel joke crafted by a group of junior managers who had been laughing at him from across the restaurant. Claire slid into the chair opposite him before he could respond. The room seemed to hold its breath. At the far end, the men who had orchestrated the prank leaned forward with their phones raised, eager to capture the humiliation. They had told him someone wanted him. They never expected her to actually show up. "You're Daniel, right?" she asked, her tone warm but steady. He nodded, still unsure if he should stand, apologize, or vanish. His throat tightened. He knew he didn't belong in a place like this. He was just the janitor, the invisible figure who emptied their bins, scrubbed their toilets, and slipped away before the day's meetings began. His life was labor and shadows, his dreams of becoming an engineer buried long ago under bills and loss. But Claire didn't look at him like he was invisible. She looked at him like she was here on purpose. "I heard what was going on," she continued quietly, her words meant for him alone. "And I couldn't let them get away with it." Daniel's heart thudded. She knew. The heat of humiliation burned across his skin, but before it could swallow him, she smiled. A real, uncalculated smile. "Would you join me for lunch?" she asked. At the other table, the managers exchanged confused glances. Their laughter faltered. This wasn't the spectacle they had planned. Daniel's hands trembled as he picked up his fork. He didn't know why she was doing this or what it meant for his life, but for the first time in years, someone important had chosen to sit with him, not laugh at him. For the first time, he felt seen. And somewhere deep inside, a part of him that had long been silent, the part that once believed he could be more, stirred awake. Claire Whitmore had heard the laughter before she saw where it came from. At first, she thought nothing of it, just another group of young managers lingering too long over lunch. But as their words drifted through the room, sharp with arrogance and cruelty, something inside her stilled. They were mocking someone, not one of their own, but Daniel Hayes, the man who quietly kept their offices shining long before they arrived each morning. A man who never asked for thanks, who carried the weight of exhaustion in his eyes, but still showed up every day with quiet dignity. She could have walked away. She could have let their game play out, let them humiliate the man who worked in the shadows. But the sound of their laughter pulled her back to her childhood, to the memory of her mother scrubbing hotel floors until her hands cracked, smiling through insults, enduring the sting of invisibility. Claire had promised herself long ago that if she ever had the power to stop cruelty, she would never turn her back. When she crossed the restaurant and pulled out the chair opposite Daniel, the room shifted. The group in the corner stiffened, their grins fading into silence. This wasn't how their prank was supposed to unfold. Daniel looked up, startled, his hand trembling against his glass. He stammered, unsure, asking if she was truly there for him. Claire met his gaze, steady and unwavering, and told him yes. The laughter died instantly. What replaced it was a thick, uneasy hush, the kind that makes people fidget in their seats. Claire leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. She didn't talk about business deals or profits or strategy. She spoke about worth, the kind of worth that isn't measured in corner offices or paychecks, but in the way someone shoulders hardship and keeps going. She told Daniel that she saw in him the same quiet strength she once saw in her mother, and that no prank, no arrogance could diminish it. Daniel's throat tightened as her words sank in. For so long, he had been the man no one noticed, the one who worked when others slept, who endured whispers and jokes in silence. To have the CEO of the very company he cleaned every night tell him that his life, his work, and his presence mattered, it was more than he could carry without breaking. Tears blurred his vision, and for the first time in years, he let them fall without shame. The men in the corner shifted uncomfortably. Their wine glasses sat untouched now. Their earlier glee turned into something sour. They couldn't laugh anymore, not when the joke had turned back on them, not when the mirror of their cruelty was held up so clearly. One by one, their smirks faded into lowered eyes. They had expected spectacle. Instead, they witnessed dignity reclaiming its place at the table. By the end of the meal, the room itself seemed changed. Conversations softened, respect lingered in the air, and no one could walk away pretending they hadn't learned something. Daniel didn't just leave that restaurant with a full stomach. He left with something that had been stripped from him long ago: dignity. He left knowing he was more than his uniform, more than the label of janitor. The following Monday, when he pushed through the glass doors of Whitmore Dynamics, something felt different. People greeted him by name. Some offered quiet apologies, others simple nods of respect. The story of what Claire had done spread quickly, whispered in elevators and break rooms. Employees repeated it not just as gossip, but as a reminder. Titles mean nothing without compassion. For Daniel, it was the first time in years he felt seen, not for the mop in his hand, but for the man he was. And for Claire, it was a promise kept, a reminder that leadership is not power over others, but responsibility for them. That afternoon, meant to be his humiliation, became his turning point. It became the story of a CEO and a janitor that lived far longer than the cruel laughter of a few managers. A story that reminded everyone who heard it that a person's worth will never be written by their job title, but by the strength of their soul and by the kindness of those who choose to recognize it.